Hey everyone, it's me again, Brittany, and I'm here today to do my 20 books that I want to read in 2020 video. Yes, it is February, and yes, I probably should have posted this in January, but there is no true time limit to the books that I want to read in 2020, and to be fair, I made this list, and I've already started to cross some off of it in January, so that's pretty cool. I did kind of film myself making this spread in my reading journal setup for the new year. I didn't have the pictures in it at the time because I still hadn't decided on the TBR or anything like that. TBR. This is like my year TBR, I guess, because I do really hope to stick to it and I really want to be able to cross all of them off of my list. So these are all books that I currently own just because I feel like that makes the most sense for like a yearly TBR. I feel like I should be crossing off books that are already in my shelves, and I mean, I have a whole separate video of the most anticipated releases for the year. I'll link that if you guys want to check it out, and that's kind of like my other TBR, kind of soft TBR. But this one is pretty serious. So let's kind of jump into it. I'm not sure how thoroughly I'm going to be summarizing each book, and I just realized I didn't take them off my shelves, so I don't know if I'm going to be showing them. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll just insert a picture. We'll see, I guess. So let's just get into it. T'Challa hates when my door's closed, so he keeps like slamming it open and then asking to be let out, but okay. I've decided I'm also going to just be inserting pictures. I do own all of these books, but I feel like finding them right now in these shelves is just gonna be a lot because I'm not even sure if I have all of them on these shelves right now. So yeah, the first book that I want to get to this year is going to be Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This came out last year and I was so anticipating the release for it. It is her first book in the adult genre and it sounds really interesting. It goes into basically like an Ivy League college and it looks at the different like houses and it incorporates magic in some aspect. It's this girl goes into one of the houses and she actually is investigating like the magical cult-like stuff that's going on. So it is very urban fantasy in the way that it's told. So I'm excited about that. I think that a college setting is going to be really cool and it's going to have like a very gothic vibe to it almost. So other than that, I didn't know much about it. I know that it's gotten very mixed reviews. When it first came out, a lot of people were giving it bad reviews, so it did make me hold off on wanting to read it. But I feel like enough time has passed and enough people have like countered those bad reviews. It's time for me to make my own decision about it. The next one on this list is going to be a reread for me, and it's one that I'm actually so excited about. There are a few rereads on this list just because, as I said in my reading resolutions style video, I do want to kind of get back into loving the feeling of reading, and part of that for me at least is rereading old faves, and this one is no exception. It's exciting though because I never reread it ever since I finished the series, and that's going to be Shadow and Bone. I just realized I talked about Leigh Bardugo back to back. So it's going to be Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. Shadow and Bone was the start of the Grishaverse, and I read it before obviously I ever read Six of Crows. I was reading it as they came out, so I'm really interested to go back into it and see how Leigh Bardugo's writing has changed and kind of like refresh my memory because I don't remember enough about it to properly move on to King of Scars. And T'Challa is asking to be lit up. So Shadow and Bone, if you didn't already know, deals with Alina Starkov, who is just a regular run-of-the-mill girl who is in the Second Army, and she really isn't anything special until one day they are going through the Rift, I believe is what it was called. It's basically this area in their world where darkness rules, where monsters rule, and there is no sun or light, and when her best friend gets attacked, she releases light. She turns out to be a Lightbringer, which is something the world has never seen, and who will hopefully help heal their world from the darkness that's been overtaking it. So it is a trilogy. The last book I absolutely hated, so I'm very interested to see how I go into it again, because I was always a Darkling stan. I loved the Darkling. I could not tell you why. I know he's a bad guy, but I loved him, so I really want to reread it and see if that still stands. I feel like it will, just because of my personality type and the kinds of guys I like to see in fantasy books, but we'll see, because I've seen a lot of Mal defenders since then, and I know the show is going to be coming out soon, so I feel like a reread is just coming. The next one is also going to be a reread for me, and it's one that I'm super excited about. I originally didn't plan for this to go in the way that it is gonna go, but I wanted to read Clockwork Angel by Cassandra Clare for the second time. So it is one of my all-time favorite series. The Infernal Devices is definitely my favorite one that Cassandra Clare has ever written, and I never reread it. I think I reread them before the third book, Clockwork Princess, came out, but I never reread Clockwork Princess. I don't really have a clear memory of the first two books anyways, and I really wanted to do a reread of them because I need to see if my love for it still stands or if maybe I've just been confused this whole time. That's unlikely because The Infernal Devices is basically unanimously the best trilogy. I know there's some of you that like Dark Artifices. I can accept that for you. I will not agree, but I can accept that for you. But it works out because Cassandra Clare's newest book in her Shadowhunter world is going to be Chain of Gold, which comes out in March. This isn't a spoiler, guys, by the way, pinky swear, but it is actually following the children of the characters in the Infernal Devices. So I want to reread, hopefully, the whole trilogy before I get to Chain of Gold. I feel like it's just going to be a really nice refresher, and I didn't expect it to play out that well. I just wanted to reread it just to reread it, and now I have a good reason too. The next book on this list is going to be the Foxhole Quarter by Nora Sakovic, I believe is how you pronounce her name. And this is actually a book that was gifted to me over a year ago by Chandler from the channel Chandler Ainsley. She absolutely adores this series and always raves about it. I think it's her favorite series, but I could be mistaken. It's also taking place on a college campus. It follows a guy in the lacrosse team, and that's quite literally all I know about it. I'm assuming it's going to be properly smutty because this is Chandler we're talking about, and I want to say there's something like paranormal going on in it, but I really am not sure. I could just be thinking of like Teen Wolf because lacrosse is the shared topic in both of those, and there might not be anything paranormal about Foxhole Quarter, but I guess we'll find out. And I am really excited though. It is a really short book, and I'm just hyped to see how I feel about one of Chandler's favorite books. So it'll be like my own personal taste test, because she does a whole series on her channel of taste tests where she like reviews booktubers' favorite books and, you know, decides if their tastes align, and I think it'll be kind of funny if I do that with her favorite book or one of her favorite books. So yeah, the next one on this list I feel like is super obvious, but also it's Supernova by Marissa Meyer. I fell in love with Renegades last year. Renegades is a really, really cool young adult story where basically there are the renegades and the anarchists, and the renegades are going to be like the good guys and the anarchists are the villains, but the lines are not that clear because the renegades and the anarchists are both just people that have superhuman abilities. And the anarchists originally rose because the humans, the regular humans, were not treating these superhuman people with respect, and they were actually kind of being awful towards them. So the anarchists rose to gain themselves some freedom and gain themselves a good life, but then maybe they went a little bit too far, and that's when the renegades, the good guys with the superpowers, came around and took down the anarchists and created an equal world for all. But it's not that clear of a line, and we do follow two people, one whose allies lie in the anarchists and one whose lies in the renegades, and how their kind of paths intertwine and how that's gonna end up being. I did read Renegades again last year, loved it. I read half of Arch Enemies and then for whatever reason did not pick it back up, and I really, really need to finish that and then get on to Supernova because I just feel like it's gonna be amazing. But this is also because my dad absolutely adores the series now, and he has been holding off on reading Supernova until I can read it, so I really need to get to it so that my poor dad can also read it. I'm coming, T'Challa. The next book on my list is going to be City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I am probably butchering her last name, but I have been looking at this series for so long, it feels like. I mean, before I ever really got into adult fantasy, whenever I would wander through the aisles nervously because I didn't know any of the books, I would always see City of Brass and was instantly intrigued, and then I started seeing really good reviews for it on BookTube in general, and I was like, wow, have to check it out. And the reviews just keep getting better, so I am so excited. I finally bought City of Brass, and I do actually want to get to it this year. I am not entirely sure what it has to deal with. I want to say that when I read the summary a long time ago, there was something to do with jinn, which jinn are sort of like genies, but a little bit more malicious than the ones that we see in like Aladdin, I guess. But I want to say that that was kind of the premise of the story. I do just know that it's a fantasy, it's adult, there's really beautiful world building, and the covers are also stunning. That's That's really all I need, if I'm gonna be honest. You just need to tell me that the book is fantasy and that it has good reviews, and I'm probably gonna be here for it. So yeah, definitely want to read City of Brass. Next up, I want to read We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. I actually was excited about this last year. A lot of the books on this list are books that I was super hyped about last year and for one reason or another just did not get to. So it's like a little bit of a backlist, but by like a year. And We Hunt the Flame definitely lies in that gray area because I wanted to read it really badly when it first came out. I'd been hearing such amazing things, and I bought the special edition Owl Crate box that had We Hunt the Flame in it, and I didn't read We Hunt the Flame. So yeah, I want to say that the only thing that I truly know about it is that the main girl and the main guy like don't like each other at first, and then they were fighting in the sand. I don't know why I know that piece. You know what? I think it's like right behind me, isn't it? I can't see it. Of course not. So yeah, I don't know too much about it, but again, it's a fantasy, it's young adult, and it's gotten pretty dang good reviews, so I am really here for it. I am sorry that I don't have a better summary for it. I do know though that it is own voices, and there is some amazing representation and some amazing diversity that is just layered into the story, so I'm excited about that as well with it. Next, for one that I kind of am just generally more excited about, because I have mentioned before that I want to start reading more classics. Not just because of the whole like, I mean, there's always that stigma against people that read young adult and they're like, oh, why don't you read the classics? That's not why I want to read the classics. I want to read the classics to kind of have a general knowledge of what was in those, so that if I see pieces of them in like the stories that are written now, it'll be fun for me. But the classic, one of the classics that I want to read this year is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I mean, she's a classic. I feel like everyone knows what Jane Eyre is about. I've definitely seen the movie, so hopefully the book can top it, but who knows. I also have like the really pretty soft cover. Oh, you can't see that. The soft cover edition of it from Barnes & Noble, and I'm just so excited to crack this bad boy open and see what it's all about. Look at those end papers. It is in vain to say human beings ought to be satisfied with tranquility. They must have action, and they will make it if they cannot find it. Why does that remind me of the like, if I cannot be better than them, then I will be so much worse. It's just a classic. I do always kind of want to be able to put at least one or two classics in this style of video. That way I slowly make a dent in the classics that I want to read list. Next, this is a book that I should have gotten to the moment it came out, and that's Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff. I am ashamed to have still not read this book. I love Nevernight. I love the Nevernight Chronicles. I love J. Kristoff. I stan Mia Corvair, and I have still not picked up the third and final book in the trilogy. I don't know why. I know I'm going to love it. It's just one reason or another, I just still have not picked it up. So that's a rough point for me. The Nevernight Chronicles, I mean, they're amazing. We follow Mia Corvair, who is on this path for vengeance for her family, because her family has really been wronged. Her father has been murdered. Her mother and her brother have been taken away and incarcerated, and she grew up alone and learning to hopefully be able to train at an assassin school. So Nevernight starts with her kind of getting into the school and the training process of what's in the school, and it's just such a cool concept for the assassin school. And then there's Mia Corvair, who is just so sassy, and she does not give a damn about anyone or anything, and she has these really mysterious shadow powers that there are really no records of. It's just such a good book, and there's so many good quotes in there, and there's a shadow cat and there's a shadow dog. I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of people reading Nevernight recently and giving it bad reviews, and like, as much as I can understand it, it also hurts my soul because it's just so good. Next is a little bit of a lighter read. I wanted to add a couple of easier reads onto this list, that way this TBR wasn't so overwhelming, and that's going to be Paper Girls, which I do actually have right over some, oh god, I can't find anything. Oh. Paper Girls, which was actually gifted to me by one of you guys. I have obviously been getting more and more into graphic novels, and it really started with Monstrous, and then I have read Saga, but I wanted to kind of get into more of them, and one of you guys gifted me Paper Girls, which is really exciting. I know that this has been said to have very Stranger Things vibes. We do follow these four girls who are on a newspaper trail, and there's a mysterious monster that has appeared in their town. Other than that, I don't know too much about it, but I mean, I love Stranger Things, and I feel like all the vibes are gonna be there. Also, the art style for this is just beautiful. I love the colors that they use. It's just yeah. And for me, a really big thing for graphic novels is the art style. I have to be able to really enjoy it to want to continue with the series, obviously. So it's already halfway there. Next is Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski. Yes. As some of you may know, The Witcher has truly and thoroughly taken over my life. I started the short stories last year and absolutely adored them, and I was holding off on watching the series because I assumed it was going to be following the actual series, which starts with Blood of Elves. And well, I finally watched the TV show and it follows the short stories, so that was fun. But I still really want to continue on with this series. I mean, Witcher is just so amazing. I love the story. I really enjoy the writing, and I feel like it's just done so well. So I have already read Blood of Elves, but it is also on my... Hello? Okay, my cats are being very weird. But it is, again, on this list of 20 most anticipated books to read. I've been wanting to read the series since I played the video game, but the Netflix series definitely gave me that push that I needed to get it out the door and start reading them. Next is another book that I should have read last year when it came out, and that is Dragon Republic by R.F. Kong. I loved The Poppy War. It took me forever to finish, but it's just such a quality piece of writing. It's done so well. It's so gruesome. I really have not read anything like it before, and I adore it. I love Rin as a main character. I loved in the first book the setting of Seingard Academy because it all starts with Rin, who is a poor war orphan who wants to get into a university, and she has to do a good enough on the exam to have her school paid for. Not only does she do good enough for that, but she does good enough to get into the best academy beyond all the odds, and she goes there to train. She deals with a lot of bullying for her darker skin color and for her state of wealth because she is poor and everyone that tends to go there is wealthy. So she's just dealing with a lot, but she's also just so intelligent and her journey is so interesting. She has no, I don't know, no moral dilemma for getting on top. She is going to be the best, and sometimes it can be pretty frustrating, but I'm so excited to see where the Dragon Republic goes with it because how Poppy War ended was a lot, so I definitely want to get to Dragon Republic this year. Another bit of an easier one is going to be City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This is Victoria Schwab's middle grade series. It is the first book in her middle grade series, and it is just really cute. I mean, not cute. It is as cute as Victoria Schwab's writing can really get. Okay, Chala! I bet he's gonna start scratching at the door already. To film at my mom's, I feel most comfortable filming with the door closed, but my cats hate, well, not my cats. T'Challa hates when the doors are closed, so he has an issue with it. But anyways, City of Ghosts. We're following a girl who can see ghosts, and her parents actually get an assignment to go to a different country, one of the most haunted places in all of the world, and do a documentary, like a film documentary, but she can actually see the ghosts. That's really the premise of the story, and that's as much as I truly tend to know about it. But I have been wanting to get more into middle grade, and I feel like a great place to start for me is going to be with Victoria Schwab's writing because I already know that I love her young adult and adult books so much, so it'll be like a smooth transition into middle grade. After that, I want to read Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is a really cutesy but also kind of a hard-hitting contemporary story about Frank Lee, who is a Korean American boy who is just kind of dealing with all the pressures of being both Korean and American and dealing with his family's expectations for him, but also what he wants for himself because his parents expect him to one day be with a Korean girl, and he realizes that that's going to be pretty difficult when he starts to fall for a American non-Korean girl. So it's definitely going to just talk about his issues with identity and also just like how far you need to go to please your parents. I think it's just going to be so interesting. I've talked a few times already about this. The moment that Books with Chloe actually talked about this book, I was instantly intrigued because I obviously am of mixed cultures. So I mean, there's my mom's side, which is Argentinian, and my dad's side, which is the muddiest of mutts. So it's just going to be really interesting to see kind of how that's discussed because obviously when you don't live, I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll talk about this another day, but there's like that whole just identity crisis that goes along with that, I guess. And this next book is another one that I should have read last year the moment it came out, and I am ashamed that I haven't yet, and that's gonna be The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is the third and final book in the Cruel Prince trilogy, one of my favorite trilogies so far, and I don't know why I am holding off on reading it. I know it's gonna be absolutely amazing. I love Jude, I love Cardan. The last book left off on such a cliffhanger, and I'm here for it. And I've heard amazing things about Queen of Nothing, so I don't know what's holding me back. I feel like you guys know what Cruel Prince is about, but just in case you need a refresher, there's Jude, who is a human in the Fae world of Elfheim, and her twin sister were taken in by a very powerful Fae, so they aren't as bullied as maybe they should be, but as they could be, but they are definitely still looked down upon by all the other Fae, and it's been a very hard life for them in that aspect, especially with one prince of Elfheim named Cardan, who absolutely hates Jude and has a vendetta against her. And it all kind of starts with them hating each other. It's a hate to love romance, which we're here for, and Jude is just unforgivable. Honestly, they're all just so morally gray, and that is something that I really enjoy in books, so yeah. Oh, this next one is actually one that I'm really excited to read. I've had my eye on this series for a few years now, and it just keeps getting better, and I keep hearing more and more hype about it, so it's finally time for me to pick up the first book, which is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. I have heard such amazing things about this series. I feel like there's just such a huge fan base for it, and I really want to know what's going on. I know that the first book is just really, really strong. We are following a girl in like that Victorian era where girls are not expected to really be anything more than pretty, but she is actually studying in forensics, and they are studying Jack the Ripper and trying to find who it is that is this murderer of women, and she is really involved in all the forensics of it, of looking at the bodies and trying to decipher what's going on, and I just feel like it's gonna be such a good story for me. I mean, I was always really interested in forensics. That's actually what I would have gone on to do with my psychology degree if I had decided to keep studying, is forensic psychology, so I just feel like it's gonna be such a fun experience for me to read. Plus I love the Victorian era. Give me corsets and give me murder. The next one is going to be Night Film by Marisha Pessl. I feel like if I don't put this in my books that I really, really, really want to read in the year, then I'm not going to end up reading it, and it's going to be another year of me having wished that I would have read it. So yeah, I have seen this book for years now. I've heard the hype of it for years. Since before I was ever a booktuber, I just saw everyone talking about it and was so interested in it, and I bought it like right away. It's probably been on my shelves for 4 or more years now, and I still haven't read it. But it is a mystery. We are following the murder of a very famous director's daughter, but she is murdered in the way that he portrayed a murder in one of his films, and he's kind of like an underground famous director, so he's more infamous than anything else, and we're just discovering the clues of the murder and seeing who actually did it. It's a big whodunit, and it's told in a really interesting format. There are articles, there are like case file informations. I just think it's gonna be really cool, and in general I do want to start reading more thrillers, so I feel like this is going to be a great place to start. Ooh, this next one is a reread, and I'm really, really excited about this one. So it's Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead. Hello, my name is Brittany, and I was obsessed with the Vampire Academy when I was young, and I used to reread these books all the time. I just loved Rose and Dimitri and the vampire world that Rochelle Mead had created, and for the longest time I even held off on reading Bloodlines because I was like, there's no way it's going to compare. It does compare, but I still don't think it's as good. So it's time for me to finally just do a reread of the series because I just loved it so, so much. I'm saying Vampire Academy, but I will likely end up marathoning the whole series. I feel like there isn't much to say about the Vampire Academy. The world is just so fascinating. I feel like it's very inspired by just Russian, it has a lot of Russian themes in it. We have these guardians who are kind of like half human, half vampires, and they protect the Moroi, who are these born vampires who live and die a normal human lifespan, but also have to drink blood to stay alive. And then we have another class of vampires, which are going to be the Strigoi, and these are made vampires. These are the ones that we hear about in our myths, which are the vampires that can't come out in the sunlight, need the blood to survive and live forever, and are absolutely cruel. And they can be made from Moroi, or they can be made from humans. They can just be made from anything. So the guardians are always protecting the Moroi from the Strigoi, if that all makes sense. I have always been very kind of obsessed, I guess, with Russia, and just I like Russia. I don't know why. I want to say that it was because I was a figure skater growing up and there was a lot of Russian coaches, so I was always really intrigued by like the culture and the language. So then I started reading and I was like, wow, I love reading about Russian inspired stories. And so yeah, my obsession slowly grew, and I will say that Vampire Academy probably is more of my favorite because of the Russian aspects of it than for the vampire aspects. But the vampire aspects are still amazing. And the love story, we love taboo love stories. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. We're down to the last two. So first is gonna be Crazy Rich Asians. I saw this movie last year and adored it. It was just so perfect and so sweet. And I desperately wanted to read the book. So I went out and bought it, and I have heard kind of mixed reviews since then of the books, but I still want to read the first one at least because that's one that seems to get the best reviews out of all of them. And I feel like there isn't much more to say about that than that. I know that it's kind of been compared to Gossip Girl in certain aspects because it's like supposed to be like an Asian Gossip Girl situation, and I really love that. So obviously I'm a huge fan of Gossip Girl, and I loved the Crazy Rich Asians movie, so I feel like the book is the next logical step. And the final book on this list is going to be another shorty, and that's going to be Heartstopper Volume 2 by Alice Oseman. I read the first book last year, absolutely adored it. It's just such a wholesome, lovely story about two boys and how they slowly become best friends and potentially become more, because one of them is most definitely gay and the other one has never actually shown any inclination towards the same sex, but they still are best friends and they're still on this journey together, and then maybe they become more than friends. It's just such a sweet story, and I really loved the artwork and the friendships and the family dynamics. It was just so well done. So I really want to read the second book, especially before the third one comes out in March. So yeah, alright, I think that those are the 20 books that I want to read this year. I talked for a properly long amount of time. I actually have to get going to work soon, so we ended just in time. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know if we share any of the same books for your like year TBR, if you have a year TBR. And yeah, I hope you guys are still enjoying these videos. I know that I am posting my like start of the year videos a little bit late, but I do plan on kind of making a week long of videos that I fell behind on in the start of the year, and it's not gonna be like this video. I feel like this one's still normal, but like the best and worst is still coming and things like that, and my year in review. So yeah, look forward to those. I hope that you don't hate them. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye!